Well, can I jump in? I think it goes back to the earlier comment. If it's on the essential project list, it still comes back to the governing body for an appropriation ordinance. We've, in the past, funded projects that never made it to the capital list, and in the past, we have created a list and didn't fund the projects on the list. So you're still going to get multiple bites at the apple. What's happening now is a visioning exercise that should take place sometime in March with community residents to identify a work product that would then be presented through the project for public spaces that we've already committed to for you to entertain. And you could say it's too ambitious, we don't have an appetite for it. The fact that it's here just says this is something that we're going to be exploring. We're not committing to spend this money. We don't have this money perhaps to spend.
If I may.
Sure, you.
I think we've fallen into that trap on more than one occasion, where there's, it's a distinction that the public doesn't necessarily draw. And I appreciate and recognize that what we do does not necessarily commit us to an appropriation at a later date. But expectations are raised when a project like this makes the first cut. And I think this is a conversation that we may have later on this evening in connection with a couple of other items that are on this list. And again, I'm stipulating that everybody's got a valid claim and everybody's got a rationale that's compelling for a specific project. But the challenge we have is to spend our dollars across the board and to do it in a way, I think, that's fair to the taxpayers in town and maintains for the governing body maximum flexibility. And on the front end of this specific issue, we need to know going in if the commitment to this $100,000 item this year is, as Bob suggests, going to obligate us to a $300,000 or $400,000 or whatever number it is next year, at a time when the budget for capital in your department may be, certainly will probably not be any greater than the number that's here tonight for this year. And what impact does that have on the various road projects on the first page that have been bumped and the milling and overlay projects that have been eliminated in totality? So, I mean, I just want to make sure, you know, I may not even be pushing you for an answer tonight. I think we just need to know that answer before we commit to everything. And everybody should understand that there's an enormous asterisk next to that item on this list, at least in my mind.
Yeah, I didn't mean to dance around the dollars issue there with you either, Councilman, but you know we've done this kind of a scoping proposal with another contractor, and they're going to come up with their numbers, and I'm not sure where they're going with it.
Look,
Just not sure.
and I didn't expect you to. I think what the takeaway is that given the nature of this work, it's going to require a commitment of follow-up dollars in the next budget and budget year. You know, we need, you know, look, I think I'm more concerned about scale than I am precision for the purposes of this exercise as to what that project would be as anticipated in the 2010 budget. So that you don't have a number for me tonight, Bob, you know, that's okay. I just, you know, we need to know that number at some point.
I think, just wait a minute, let's go back, since there's obvious discomfort here with doing this project. Let's look at it from a different angle. You've said there's some offsets and things to the street. If we didn't do it, what do you see the downside? Is there? Maybe there is none.
Since I haven't claimed it to be an emergency condition this year. Not that we want to get there, but it's functioned reasonably well, and it's currently less than perfect condition. And I think we could probably limp along for another year or two if we had to. However, you certainly don't want to leave a problem like that underground when a larger project comes along and you spend money on the resurfacing of the roads and the sidewalks. And
Because you do have to wait a year in between for the
it's always
settlement.
advisable to do it that way. Yes, it is. There may be other options as far as spot repairs. But again, with a line of this configuration, it would probably make the most practical sense just to dig it up and replace it. And that was what's on the table for this evening. But I think we can probably push the consultant that's working on Lincoln Place for details and see if we can come up with some ballpark numbers as to where we are with
And then we
cost
can
and
come
schedule.
back and get a better idea. But it also may fall into different grant cycles that, for streetscape or ICE-T money. So timing might be off anyway. So if there's that much discomfort with this, we don't have to put the 100,000 in there.
Well, are there any other sanitary sewers that you've had problems with in this past year?
6 locations that we need to dig up and replace as a priority, but those are,
Where are they?
those are under the lining budget.
Right, you've
You
got
mean
section-
main lining?
well, You've
Main
got
lining
section
budget.
repairs,
Section repairs
6
6.
for liner, which you requested 100 and it's at 0. So those were important enough for you to put on the list, and it came down to one or the other. Is that kind of what,
What happened was the lining program that we accomplished last year, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Ray, but the bid was fairly low in respect to the budget. And we had money left in the appropriation where this work could be accomplished. So, and I think we bonded that money.
Correct.
That is correct as well. And so that lining project, which we bonded last year, we bonded conservatively, and these section repairs are directly
Are being
related to
taken
that
care of.
project.
Being
Right,
taken
they're
care of.
prepaid under the prior
So we
funding.
can take it out of the bond money instead of
all
asking
right,
for it for
so
a
so
year.
they're off the list, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
But what about these other 6 areas that you identified? That's not
That's
that what you're talking about, section repairs.
The 6 section repairs will be done, but it will be done under last year's budget, essentially, not this year's.
Okay, so I had asked for, is there a priority? Are there trouble spots that you haven't accounted for that have cropped up this year that, in sewer lines, that you have not budgeted for or brought to our attention?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, good. That's good.
Right.
Thank you.
And it would be the same issue as Lincoln Place, because any sewer replacement's gonna lead into road construction probably, yeah.
Right. I just
So-
wanted
Yeah.
to
Maybe
know.
we should know, well, let me make sure if I understand this. The 6 functional equivalents of Lincoln Place in terms of this sanitary sewer repair work are being funded out of last year's budget.
Correct. And they're more severe than Lincoln Place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which means in turn that we're gonna have the follow-up work on those 6 sites in 2010, if I understand kind of the operating assumption there?
In fact, the follow-up work, which you mean the completion of the lining?
The road work.
The road work.
Yeah,
The way we just talked about Lincoln Place, you go in, you do the sewer line, you do the sewer
No,
work first, then
it's
you gotta redo the road.
These spot repairs are less than 100 feet long.
Okay.
All of
Okay.
them. And so they are on Park Avenue, which is a county road, Central Avenue, and Ridgedale Avenue.
Keep
So
them on those county
those
roads.
projects.
So we don't have, all I wanna do is see if we were, walking into that trap for the unwary, where all of a sudden we're gonna find ourselves committing X number of dollars in next year's budget to redo those roads. If you tell me we're off the hook and we don't have that kind of a commitment, that's fine. I just wanna make sure we understand.
For the county road, we certainly don't. For Ridgedale Avenue, it's high on the list. We do need to do something on Ridgedale Avenue. I think it's a reasonable project to design for this year. Whether it gets funded and completed as a reconstruction or a mill and overlay, either in 2010 or 2011, I don't think is really an issue, but it is high on the list in terms of reconstruction projects that ought to be done.